Hello and welcome to the video. This is a look at another new camera from RunCam. This is the RunCam Phoenix 2 Nano. Not sure why it says Racer on the back. It actually says Phoenix 2 Nano at the bottom. This is a smaller version of a camera that I looked at in February of this year and was very impressed with. So impressed, in fact, that it's actually taken probably top spot of the favourite RunCam cameras at the moment over my beloved RunCam Eagle. Now, if you go back and watch that video, you'll notice how well this camera performs and how nice it looks when compared to that really expensive camera. Now, this Nano version of the Phoenix 2 is very, very similar in how it performs to that original Phoenix 2. It's got the same half-inch big image sensor, an f2.0 aperture lens, really good in low light. I'll show you all that in a minute and what it looks like when it's filming. Now, the lenses in this glass just the same as the bigger version of it, and it's got all the same kind of features. I'll show you all of the menu features in a moment. The cable's a little bit different. You have to kind of plug it into the top rather than the back. But luckily in the menu there is the option to flip it horizontally and vertically. So if you want to put this in your very small model, something like a toothpick, it'll still fit. So with it on the bench, let me show you how everything works. In fact, it's probably easier if I put the lens cap on so you can actually see the on-screen display a little bit better. We've got the automatic exposure settings. You can change the brightness, how the exposure is handled. I'm leaving everything for auto for the test. White balance, automatic or manual. We'll keep it automatic for now. How it handles day-night, very similar to some of the other cameras I've looked at recently. I'm going to leave that on colour and we'll see what that looks like. Image enhance, you've got contrast, sharpness, colour gain and noise reduction. And then the video settings, you have a couple of funky things. You have the video standard, PAL or NTSC, the HD format. Seems to have similar firmware on here to things like the Foxeer cameras that I looked at recently, in that when you change any of the things, it actually reboots it. Interestingly, changing the image ratio between 4:3 and 16:9 doesn't seem to change what I can see too much. So I'm not sure if that's something just specific to this particular one I've got here. You can invert it horizontally and vertically, and that's about your lot. So let me take it out into the garden. Unfortunately, we're in lockdown still here in the UK, so I can't go wandering around. So we're going to do it in the back garden. However, it's a nice sunny day again. So we've got really bright areas. We've got areas that are in very deep shadow. And I'm just going to walk around and hopefully you can see how well the camera's performing. A little bit of fisheye. You can probably see that in the spaces as I'm moving it around. And apologies for the little bit of interference. That's coming more from the fact that, again, I have to have my video transmitter kind of close to me. I'm actually holding it in one hand with my goggles in the other, which isn't ideal, but you still get a very good idea of how the camera is performing. Again, loads of detail in the shadows and lots of contrast right away across the image. It's a very natural colour, so it's not oversaturating anything. The sky's nice and blue. I can see detail in the shadows and I can still see detail in the highlighted areas as well. So in daylight, this thing is performing exactly like the Phoenix 2 was. Really, really beautiful image, not a lot of shimmer. I also like the fact that in the shadows, some of the cameras I've looked at tend to have like a purpley blue cast in the shadows, and you have probably seen it flick into a couple of different white balance settings as I am moving the camera about. But for such a little camera, the performance is absolutely lovely. So let's try it at night time and see how that high sensitivity and that nice big glass lens work when there's not a lot of light about. So here we are in the garden after the sun has set. This is about 40 minutes after the sunset, so the garden itself is kind of lots of shades of grey. The sky's very dark. There's a slight kind of peach coloured edge to the sky. But you wouldn't know that looking at this image. It looks like 40 minutes, an hour before the sun set. The colours are really nice. You can see, well, you might be able to see it just above where my Spitfire wind vane is. The first stars are coming out, and that is actually Venus, which is quite bright in the sky, but you can see that clearly. And hopefully you can see here how well it is performing. That little bit of fisheye as I'm moving around, but the image is absolutely fantastic. It's flicking between different versions of white balance, but I can see in the shadows beautifully. The contrast is really good. I'm blown away at how well this camera is doing, because interestingly, this isn't a super low light camera. This doesn't have those super low light sensitivities of 0.0001 lux. In fact, hopefully you can see there Venus just above kind of the just around where the wind vane is. It doesn't have that really low light level. It actually has a much higher light level, so the performance in these low light conditions is particularly impressive. Now, I like the original Phoenix 2 when I did the review of it, comparing it to one of my favorite cameras over the last couple of years, which was the Eagle series. I think I prefer the Phoenix for lots of things. Now, if you're going to be running it with a flight controller, it's a really good choice. It doesn't have a microphone, it doesn't have VBAT and on-screen display, but you don't care about that if you have a flight controller, and there aren't any lens options as well. Only a couple of things to comment really with this camera, I guess. First of all is that the 4369 option didn't seem to change it here, even if I kind of rebooted the camera. And the last thing to mention was the voltage on this is exactly the same as its bigger brother. That's the 5 to 36 volts. Now, this is the perfect size to go on really small models, things like toothpicks. So having a slightly lower voltage can help in those situations where you're running a smaller battery on those really small models. But if you're looking for a really small camera and you like the way that original Phoenix 2 performed, the Phoenix 2 Nano is a fantastic choice. Really impressed with the cameras that I seem to be getting in at the moment. We seem to be a little bit sport for choice. There aren't really any particularly bad options. But for me, the Phoenixes are now my top choice when I'm looking for a camera for a new build. So you are definitely going to see these cameras in future videos. Thank you for watching my video and watching right to the very end. If you want to find out what I'm currently working on, you can follow me on social media by searching for Painless360 in the usual places. If you'd like to become part of the inner circle, then you can become a Patreon. Details are in the description and you get lots of additional benefits. Check out the playlist section on the channel too. I organise all of my videos into playlists, and it's called something like Introduction to or for Beginners. All of the content is aimed so that you can start at the very beginning, and it teaches you that subject, starting with simple principles and moving up to teach you everything you need to know.